One company is trying to take over the world of anime figures. This is a figure from FuRyu, and so is this one, and this one. All of these figures have nothing in common, except that they're all made by the same company. But how is this special or unique in any way? Well, most companies tend to specialize in a small number of fields. Kotobukiya does scales, along with Hobbymax, Prime 1, and Shibuya Scramble. Taito does prize figures, and so do Bandai and Sega. FuRyu does bunnies. Good Smile Company does scales, Nendoroids, pop-up parades, and Figmas. But FuRyu does almost all of these, plus some more. So how is FuRyu planning to become one of the biggest names in figures? And will it work? FuRyu isn't a name you'd often find on lists for the top figure manufacturers. In fact, if you dig through forums on my figure collection, you'll quickly learn that most collectors actually hate FuRyu. This comes from many things, like FuRyu figures being overpriced, as well as not resembling the official artwork or lacking shading, or how they've misled buyers with prototype photos that were bluntly inaccurate. There are many problems with FuRyu, and they've started off with a bad impression for many people. But despite this, they're making all kinds of figures. FuRyu actually has a weird history of extending themselves to work on everything. This company has made photo booths, mobile apps, and even video games. They're actually not even a figure manufacturer first and foremost, but rather make UFO catchers with small merchandise prizes. Now they're venturing into almost every corner of the figure market, often copying or responding to successful moves by other companies. Tenatal is the biggest example of this, as it's basically a copy of Good Smile Company's model for Pop-Up Parade. We made a whole video on Pop-Up Parade, but the main gist is this line is building a tier between cheap prize figures and expensive scales. After Pop-Up Parade's success, FuRyu debuted Tenatal, a line that does pretty much the same thing. It's a mid-tier figure brand, walking the line between prize and scales. But Tenatal isn't merely a carbon copy. It improves on one of Pop-Up Parade's biggest weaknesses, the base. Some Tenatal bases are beautiful and wildly creative, but it's not just Good Smile Company. FuRyu has also taken notes from Taito. Taito, which mostly makes prize figures, recently started a line called Artist Masterpiece, another brand we also made a video for. And Artist Masterpiece is meant to produce higher quality prize figures to compete with the more expensive price of scales. FuRyu's brand Trio Triad is becoming its own version of Artist Masterpiece. Though while some of these are great for prize figures, they often don't match the sheer ambition and quality of Taito. But beating Taito in quality isn't really the goal. Artist Masterpiece only has a small number of figures released. Trio Triad, however, has tons. Another company they're facing up against is FuRyu, which mainly focuses on bunny scales. Bunny scales by FuRyu are usually pretty safe figures, but they're expensive, making it hard for some people to afford them. This is where FuRyu has stepped in with Buy Cute Bunnies, a brand of bunny prize figures. The quality is nowhere near FuRyu, but they're way cheaper and not too bad for prize figures. However, the lineup for Be Cute Bunnies has mostly stuck to ReZero, SAO, and Kaguya-sama. So despite the amount of figures this brand has at the moment, there is very little variety of franchises among them. But while FuRyu started in this industry making prize figures, they're now also making scales with their brand FNEX. While some of their stuff is pretty good, other stuff look like this. Remember, FuRyu primarily makes prize figures, and they haven't converted to the scale market without issue. A lot of the hate they get comes from their non-prize items, like this Made in Abyss figure. Why the hell is this so expensive? This Miku figure, also by FuRyu, is literally half the price. When it comes to scales, there's really no consistency or any clear benchmark to understanding FuRyu's pricing system. For example, this figure is around 50,000 yen, which is a lot. Here's what you could get from Shibuya Scramble at the same price. Yeah. But there is some unique stuff from FNEX. Their Furisode lines of girls in kimonos are genuinely beautiful. But speaking of kimono figures from FNEX, they have a line of figures literally wearing real kimonos. FuRyu has collaborated with real Japanese kimono makers to produce one of the most unique lines of scales in the market. This is something that's truly unique across the industry. Just don't pay attention to their prices. Of course, when it comes to scales, the situation isn't uniform, and some figures are 100% worth the price. Now, FuRyu has some other unique brands. Their Exceed creative brand for Hatsune Miku is another interesting one. This brand reimagines food as Hatsune Miku, from melon soda to chocolate mint ice cream. They also have their noodle stoppers competing with Sega. Actually, one interesting noodle stopper is this one of Miku, dressed up as the Monkey King, because it was eventually re-released as a Tenatol figure. From the distance, it's hard to tell them apart, but once you look closely, there's small details that indicate how a Tenatol and prize figure are different, such as in the molding of the legs and hair quality. Interestingly enough, FuRyu has a few crossovers like this. For example, they have a trio triad figure in a bunny costume, instead of including it as a bi-cute bunny. At the end of the day, while FuRyu doesn't seem to currently be one of the biggest manufacturers in the business, they seem to be desperate to change that. They're venturing into almost every corner of the market, and are copying other companies to potentially ride off of their successes. However, FuRyu has left a bad taste among a lot of collectors with their inconsistent pricing and honestly questionable quality control. If they truly do hope to become one of the biggest names in the industry, they have to repair a lot of bad faith.